Hi folks, and welcome to today's video, lumbar herniated disc, healing versus recovery. Now, first time to the channel, well, I make a lot of good content for those folks that are suffering with low back pain problems, such as sciatica nerve pain, bulging discs, herniated discs, sciatica. If that is you, hit the subscribe button. You'll be notified about some great content to get you back on the road to pain-free recovery. But without further ado, let's dive into today's video. Hi folks, so today's title, healing versus recovery, and you'll notice on the thumbnail, will I recover without surgery? Do you need surgery for a lumbar herniated disc? So there's a lot of things I'm going to cover in today's video, so it's quite a long one, okay, but I'm going to be going through many different steps, covering many different questions people ask me, and trying to get across the point about the difference between what I regard as healing and recovery, and why it is super important to be strengthening your way out of pain. Okay, so let's begin. If you have a lumbar herniated disc, okay, you must understand that the tissues involved, it's not muscle, it's not bone, okay. The disc itself, they do liken it to a jelly donut. We've got liquid in the middle, it's called the nucleus pulposus, where you've got these kind of tough fibers on the outside, and this basically will, the disc will push through, the inner disc pushes through, breaks out of what's called these annulus fibers, and that's when you get the fully herniated disc, okay? Now the issue with the disc is it doesn't have its own blood supply, all right? Not like your skin, okay, you know, like your muscles, etc., capillaries. The disc doesn't have a blood supply, so it takes a long time for that tissue to heal, right? If you break your arm, bone typically calcifies 6 to 8 weeks in a cast, it's all calcified. Muscle tears, anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. Tendon could be 3 to 6 months. Ligament, call it white tissue, has a very poor blood supply. That can be 18 months before it's completely refibered or the collagen layers have been laid back down again. Disc is similar in that it has no direct blood supply, so it's a much longer process to heal, okay? Now, this gets to the point about healing versus recovery, because on your journey to getting better, back to your activity, back to your sports, playing with your kids again, you know, just being a normal, active human being, you may be recovered, but physiologically, it might not be healed, the injury. And that is why you have to be cautious, protective, and get yourself as strong as possible to prevent re-injury, okay? So we'll break it down a little bit more. So essentially, when the disc herniates, material comes out of the disc, excuse me, the body itself will activate its own mechanisms to dehydrate the area, to eat away at that tissue, it's called phagocytosis, and the disc material will start to dehydrate and shrink, okay? Now, the body's very good at doing that. What's really interesting is that the larger the herniation, generally the quicker this takes place, because the pain is usually manifested much greater pain, and the body reacts in a greater way, okay? So the disc material starts to dehydrate and gets eaten up, and some of it does actually get drawn back into the disc, okay? We can do different methods, that's where the rehabilitation comes in, but the outer annulus fibers, okay, they take a long time to get laid down. It's like this kind of, they lay down in sort of cross bridge fashion, and they're very easy to tear, to damage during the healing process, and even if it completely scars over, okay, that point is always going to be a weak point, yeah? It's never going to be as strong as it was before, okay? So I can tell you from personal experience, I first herniated my L5-S1 back 20 odd years ago, 2005. Last year, same spot, I re-herniated it again, okay? Now, that of course was a weak spot for me. I did lift incorrectly to bring about the new like herniation I was lifting with quite high intensity, and the disc obviously herniated again. It pushed back at the MRI, and the material had pushed back into the sciatica nerve. Now, perhaps my disc had never completely healed. Perhaps it was never completely, you know, scarred over, okay? Maybe it was just stuff that showed up a little bit, and then all that time it had been perfectly fine, and I just did a rounded back lift by accident, by mistake, and I pushed it, okay, too far. So, the point being is, you can be in a position whereby you have no pain, no sciatica nerve pain, no back pain, okay? People 1 year out, 9 months out, 14 months out, but the body will still be healing physiologically within, okay? And that is why it's so, so important to remember that you've had that injury and to train. When I say train, I don't mean just do sport, okay? I mean actually train, go to the gym, and build a stronger, sort of really rigid spine, okay, when you're doing activities as much as possible to protect that area which has been weakened with that injury, okay? There's a couple of videos are going to flash up of me there. This is like a few years ago. I was training to different lifts, okay? That's the point I had got to in my training. Years after my disc, I had no problems at all. Obviously, I did re-injure it, okay, being a bit too greedy. Now I'm at the stage where I was just practicing the other week on a pendulum squat there, using the pendulum squat. I did do a little test run of some front squats. That's 80 kilos, 170 pounds there, front squat. I was just testing out how my body would react. Reacted perfectly fine, which is good, okay? I've got a little bit of lingering sciatica nerve pain, which is more just because I sit a lot more now, so I need to be much conscious of getting up, walking around, doing a lot of nerve glides, opening up my hips, etc. I will be planning to get an MRI hopefully soon, so 18 months, or I might wait to the 2-year point just to see what's happening at that level, and obviously show it to you guys as well so we can track how I'm progressing from my last MRI, which was last February, okay? So, yes, you will have recovered in the sense that you can do all your activities, but you must remember that you had this injury and you want to keep strong, okay? A lot of people, they will often undertake physical therapy for a few months, feel great, go back to their activities and lapse and get pain again. First question the physio will often ask you is, are you still doing your rehabilitation exercises? No, okay? And that's what brought them back out of pain, because here's another thing, okay? Age plays a very, very big part in your recovery process. And it's a hard topic to talk about for some people, I know, okay? But that's the next bit I want to talk about, is your age and recovery. Okay, so age. Here's the deal. If you are under 25, 27, 28, okay, you're going to heal a lot faster, okay, due to many physiological mechanisms within your body, all right? If it's your first herniation, okay? That doesn't mean that area won't be weak going forward and that you may re-herniate it, years from now, okay? But the chances are you recover much, much faster, okay? If you're over 35, over 40, over 50, then there's morphological changes have happened to the disc already, okay, that make it less likely to heal as fast, all right, for the nerve to regenerate, to repair as quickly, okay, as somebody who's younger, under 30. So it will take a longer period of time, okay. If you're a certain age and you've lost a lot of disc height, there is some research to say that the McKenzie type activities will not work as well for you as they will for a younger person, okay? So age plays a huge factor when it comes to time to recovery, okay? And the healing process as well, of course, will be longer, all right? But this is not meant to put you off, okay? This is meant to say that, yes, when you hear young people on the internet screaming, I'm better after 6 months or 4 months or 8 months or 9 months or 10 months, whatever it could be, right? And these people are 25, 30 years old, even 35, okay? And you're sitting there at home watching and you're 40, 45, 50 or older, all right? It doesn't apply, okay? Getting stronger applies, yes, of course, but the rate at which you're going to heal and recover is going to be very different, okay? So I know it's difficult sometimes, all information on the internet, who to believe, but physiologically, that's just the way we're designed, all right, just the way we're built. The older we are, the longer it takes for us to recover from general injuries, okay, especially one which has not got a lot of vascularization, which is, like I said, the disc or ligament tissue getting damaged as well, all right? So here's the thing. Yes, age plays a big part, but you can recover, okay? And I want to talk now about the surgery aspect, because I did say in the thumbnail, do you need surgery, okay? So with my first injury, it was bad, so bad at one point. I couldn't walk for a couple of weeks. I was off work for like 10 days. I was on a lot of painkillers just because the sciatica nerve pain was so bad, okay? Now, I didn't have drop foot. I didn't have any issues with bladder control. It was just agonizing pain, okay, which was fine when I lay down. When I got up to walk around and stand, it was extremely painful. I opted not to go for surgery, purely because of a lot of the research that I'd done. I spoke to a neurologist, I spoke to a physiatrist, and I'd started a course, which is where I use all my LDOA work, which is from a man called Dr. Guy Boyer. So I decided not to go for surgery. I had the option. Okay, I did have a contact. She said, look, I can get you in with this guy that I know next week, whatever, very easily. I could have had it done, micro disectomy, but I chose not to, okay? And obviously, I recovered fully. I re-herniated, of course, last year officially. I again said, nope, I'm not going to do it. I knew I would have a longer road this time, but because it's 20 years later when I hurt it, I also did not have a great start to my recovery journey this time, due to holidays and travel and a lot of travel, actually a lot of planes at that time. So I knew I was in for a long road, because the longer you leave to start your proper recovery, leave it till you start, it exponentially increases the time, okay? So I am about, 18 months, I think, end of this month, about 18 months from main injury onset. And I'm probably at that kind of 99, 98%. I'm kind of like that last little bit to get past. I can do almost everything. So recovered, right? But I still have a little bit of pain now and again. I drove for 7 hours the other week from the northwest of Scotland down to England. And yeah, I was a bit numb because I was sitting on a Sciatica nerve, but I didn't have a problem. Walked around 5 minutes after I got out of the car and I felt fine. So I'm almost there, okay? So yes, I am almost fully recovered, but my healing will take a lot longer, okay? So like you saw in those videos with loading the weight, I was just testing, okay? I'm not going to be putting a weight in my shoulders for a while, okay? I will start to increase the tension on my lower back by doing some body weight good mornings, stuff like that, hip hinging, putting a little bit of stress onto those muscles, side planking, that kind of work, okay? One arm push-ups, because I want to encourage blood flow and strengthening work of the lower back without any direct compression impact, yeah? Now, the thing about age is, and getting yourself out of pain, I talk about strengthening yourself out of pain. Little story, I had a guy come to me once, squash player, this is years and years ago. I used to work a lot in strength and conditioning, used to work with a lot of athletes. I had a squash player who's mid-30s, and he said, Colin, I keep getting injured, and I feel like I should maybe have to go to the gym now. I don't know what to do. Can you help? Yeah. And this is one of the interesting aspects of sport, right? When we're younger, a lot of people play sport through their early teens, late teens, early 20s, and they're generally fit because of the sport they play, okay? And maybe they go to college, they stop playing the sport, and they get out of college, they work for 3 years, okay, and they say, I want to go back to that sport. So now they're in their mid-30s, say. They go back to that sport and they hurt themselves, or they get injured, or they're playing okay, and then they just can't seem to improve, can't seem to get better. And like, why? Like, how before I could play the sport and I was fit and I was, great shape. Now I'm playing the same sport and I'm not in good shape anymore. What's going on? So when you're younger and you're growing, okay, and you have all the growth hormones, whatever, in your body, it's very easy to stay in shape, to get in shape, physiologically, just by playing sports. When you get older, in many ways, you have to actually get strong before you go to play your sport, okay? Because in that kind of 10, 15 years between when you're playing when you're younger and when you go back to playing, you develop all these bad habits. You sit a lot more. You're not as active in general. Things tighten up in your hips. And then you go back to try to play your sport again, and you very often get overuse injuries, cartilage damage, etc. So everybody I've worked with who comes to me who wants to go back to their activities, I say, you've got to get into the gym. We've got to get you into a balanced strength program. That will strengthen you and improve your mobility, flexibility, to then be able to undertake your sport. Now, that is something that I use a lot with people who have had the back injuries as well, because you have to, at the end of the day, strengthen your way out of pain. And to hold that strength, you've got to keep going and doing activities in the gym. Yes, you can do stuff at home as well, of course, home gym activities, TRX type exercises, but that is going to hold you in good stead for the future. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more now about the strength training aspect of taking yourself out of injury to recovery, healing, and hopefully preventing surgery. So I'm changing positions here. It's like musical chairs today, keeping you guys on your toes. Strengthening your way out of pain, okay? Now, with any rehabilitation program, the idea is to make you stronger, to make your body the ability to sort of carry more stress, okay, throughout all of its tissues, okay, upper, lower extremities, core, glutes, back, etc., which will carry you into daily life activities and into your, of course, sport activities, hobbies, etc., okay? Strength, being as strong as you possibly can be, will help you get there. Generally, the stronger you become around about joints, okay, there's less stress gets put on the joint, on that structure. You can hold yourself, be more stable as you go to move, etc., which of course will then not put stress on the damaged areas. Now, a lot of people struggle basically sort of getting their program right with the rehabilitation. And I'm going to put a link at the end of this one to a video which is specific on how you progress your own rehab plan, what you should be trying to think about, okay? I'll also put a video at the end as well on why I chose not to get surgery if you're kind of on the fence. It's worth watching, okay? If you don't have, severe issues like cauda equina, drop foot, bladder defecation issues, then, and you're sort of on two minds as to whether you can do the conservative route or you want the quick fix, all right? Go and check out that video, all right? But continuing with the strength aspect, okay, healing, recovery. When you do activities, you create blood flow. And as I said before, there's no direct blood flow to the disc. However, it gets its nutrients, okay, via osmosis, where you get this sort of transfer through the cell membrane of nutrients, inflammatory material is taken away, all right? So if you can be as active as you can be, walking, swimming, cycling, okay, not hunched over, we're talking more kind of sit up and beg, mountain bike style cycling, that's all going to promote blood flow, gentle rhythmic rocking to your pelvis, okay? It's going to promote blood flow to that region. Then, of course, you've got weight training. Now, I would encourage you to go to the gym to do this. However, there are certain things you can do at home. I do a lot of exercise and examples of things you can do at home or with what's called the TRX or suspension training system. I am about to launch a kind of back to the gym program. It's a 3-month program where it's basically all gym activities to get you back to your lifting standard if you are a gym goer. If you're interested, just say yes in the comments, okay? And I'll make sure to reach out to you as well to get you signed up for that. I'm looking for 20 people to do a trial of this to make sure it is optimal and it will work for you guys to get you back in the gym 100%, all right? So strengthening, the stronger you can make the tissues, okay, you'll be recovered faster, better, be able to do more because you're stronger, you can carry yourself better, and all the time promoting blood flow to help that healing aspect, okay, and hopefully avoid surgery. Now, you've got to be, of course, progressive with the loading that you do in the gym. You can't just be jumping under, going straight to deadlifts, jumping under the bench press, right? You've got to be selective and careful what exercises you choose to do, okay? I would prefer using incline presses, hammer strength machine presses, as opposed to lying on my back, arching for doing regular bench press, okay? Because at the end of the day, unless you're going to compete in powerlifting, there's a million different ways to do certain exercises and get the same benefits. If you're just looking for, cosmetic looks, okay, aesthetics, there's a million things you can do without having to do the sort of the big, deadlift, squats, bench press, okay? You can get away with loads of other exercises that will give you the same benefit, less chance of hurting yourself, yeah? Another good thing about using machines is you don't have to actually lift the weights up and down. Because a lot of people struggle sometimes. They only know dumbbells, barbell. If your gym has machines, you can set the pin, get yourself locked into that position, press, pull, whatever it could be, but you're able to do it at a level where your back does not get placed under a lot of stress, okay? So it's about doing this progressively over 3, 6, 9, 12 months, up to 18 months, okay, and then continuing to do so, right? Most likely after that 18-month mark, the scarring that will take place across the disc will almost be complete. It can take up to 2 years in some cases, maybe a bit longer for some people. But at that point, it would be more safe to load, your disc. Now, how safe? That depends. Do you want to go back to powerlifting? Do you want to go back to doing maximal lifts? Then you will have to be much more careful and progressively, load your spine as you go forward, okay? If you want to preserve the longevity of your body, you may want to avoid heavy compressive movements, okay? There's a lot of other things you can do. The trap bar deadlift is very good, dumbbell deadlifts. There's a lot of machines and sort of belt squats, etc. Things you can use, which will still be able to put a lot of weight on your body, create muscle hypertrophy, get you stronger without directly putting a lot of compressive force on that lumbar region, okay? So just to kind of recap once again, okay, healing versus recovery. Yes, the two in my mind are different. Okay, recovery is being able to return back to what you were doing before or almost before, and deep down physiologically inside of you, the healing is still taking place. And you have to remember that, okay, when it comes to your rehab program, your gym program, your sport program, your hobbies, etc. Okay, and will you need surgery? For 90% of people, no, you will not need surgery. Conservative care will get you back to where you were before. Okay. So hopefully this video has been helpful. Any questions, comments, please shoot me a comment down below in the comments section. Don't forget, of course, to like, share, subscribe, get the video to as many people as possible to help them on their recovery journeys. Don't forget to check out those 2 videos, okay? First one is popping up, is going to be on why I chose to not get surgery. And then the second one is going to be how to progress your own rehab program with your volume, intensity, sets, reps, etc. All right. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. Have a great day.